We're going to go ahead and get started. It's good to see a packed house. I'm Mitch Mitchell, Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners, and it is 9:04 a.m. on March 15th, 2024, and I'm going to call to order today's regular and special meeting of the board. We are meeting in person this morning with commissioners, staff, and members of the public in attendance. We have a quorum with all commissioners. Oh, Tony's not here yet. I don't know if Tony's coming.
I believe Tony's not here today.
Okay, Tony's not here. Well, we have a quorum with most commissioners present. Video of today's meeting is also being streamed live online. The link to watch today's meeting is on the Housing Commission website at www.sdhc.org. Members of the public who wish to provide comments to the board need to complete a speaker slip here in the boardroom and hand it to Scott Marshall, our Vice President of Communications, who's standing there on the side of the boardroom. In a moment, I will be proposing that the agenda items 100, 101, 102, and 103 be placed on the consent agenda item for today's meeting. Members of the public may make comments about the items on the consent agenda before submitting a speaker request form for that item before the board considers the consent agenda. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit a gold-colored form. To speak in opposition, a pink-colored form. And those who wish to address an item that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker's request form. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments on agenda items or non-agenda public comments. However, if a large number of people wish to provide non-agenda public comments or speak on a single item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. So when I call your name, please step up to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. All right, so we will now move over to the non-agenda public comments for the board and regular and special meetings. And I have a few non-agenda public comment slips. So we will start with Ellis Rose. Mr. Rose.
Good morning, commissioners, audience. My name is Ellis Rose. I reside at 1435 Imperial Avenue, apartment 503. It is a permanent supportive housing development. I have lived there since it opened in September of 2017. Grand opening was in July of 2017. I don't know why, since nobody was living there. But it was, and I think that set the tone for a lot of things. I am a former board member of the Regional Task Force on Homelessness and of the San Diego Continuum of Care Council. And I'm here to talk about the deplorable conditions at the Cypress development. Something that I'm afraid happens elsewhere, but this development happens to have me as a resident. And as Ms. Jones knows, I have a big mouth and I speak up. And things are out of control. The maintenance in our building is horrendous. I mean, 2 weeks ago, twice we went without water for 12 plus hours. And we had to wait until the morning for the water to be turned back on. When you have a building full of disabled people, having no access to water at night is pretty deplorable. It's deplorable for anybody, but it's even worse for those who need to use water for whatever reason. The conditions. This morning I walk outside my building and one of my fire escapes is blocked with people who are camped in front of it because nobody's maintaining the security. But that's also, again, a maintenance issue. We have had windows shattered and the glass just left. We have had trash piled up in our trash chutes for 4 weeks. 4 weeks from top to bottom, and nobody cleared it. Security. We have, for all practical purposes, no security, which means that if somebody wants to walk in off the street and say, take me up to this floor, you probably better do it because no one's going to protect you if you say no. Okay? It doesn't matter that I have a fob and they don't. I can't keep them out, and I can't protect myself if they decide to go off on me. I have had my apartment broken into. I have been in that apartment. I have been robbed. And this is within the last 2 months, okay? Police don't even respond to complaints from my building anymore. They don't respond. I had one 911 operator actually refuse to take my call. Refused to take it. I couldn't believe it. And I'm being attacked. Okay, there's somebody outside the door beating on my door. If he had continued long enough, that door would have buckled. And nobody responded. Security has to The security from 9:30 in the evening until 4:30 in the morning, they know there's no one going to back them up. So they end up having to play doorman for people who want to come in. I mean, I understand where they're coming from. You know, I get to know them. We have black mold. We have lack of adequate case management. Okay, we're supposed to have case management, and I've got to tell you, it's just out of bounds. That's a whole problem. And even just yesterday, my building manager is trying to enter my apartment, hasn't given me notice, has never given me notice, by the way, refuses to even give me the notice mandated by state law, 24 hours. Puts it on my door at, let's say, 5 in the evening, and expects to be able to be let in at 9 in the morning. Our lease calls for 72 hours. He doesn't care, and no one calls him on it. Case management supports him, by the way. And then residents are desperate. They are desperate. Yesterday, a woman was worried. She's like, my doctor wants to put me in the hospital. My blood pressure is so bad. People want out. People want help. And nobody's listening to them. And I've got to say this. This includes Housing Commission staff. We don't feel anybody's listening to us. Anybody's helping us. And that's why I am here this morning. We are looking for help. And personally, I also need to say that I am feeling like I am being personally targeted for retaliatory harassment. I am being blamed for the black mold in my apartment, which has been there for like a good 5 or 6 years. Remember, this is a new building. And I'm being held responsible for it, and they're threatening to end my Section 8. Threatening to end it. I don't have any money. I don't have any income right now because I don't have good case management. They don't even keep my appointments.
Okay.
So I'm frustrated.
I can tell Mr. Rose you are. I think what we'll do is we'll have, Lisa, you'll have somebody, staff reach out.
Yes, we'll reach out to the owners and the developers of the property. They hold the contract with the property management, so I really think that going to the top of this conversation is going to be important. And we'll do that. And
I would
we'll
encourage you to also reach out to the residents. We have stories that'll curl your hair.
That's a really helpful, actually, that's a very helpful idea. Thank you,
Okay.
Ellis, for that.
All right, Mr.
Appreciate
Rose.
it. Thank you.
Mr. Rose.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
taking the time.
Thanks for taking the time to be here. Thank you. All right, next up is Nora Alexander.
Hi, my name is Nora Alexander, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I grew up in foster care, and after leaving the foster care system, they don't really prepare you for like the real world. So I've been struggling with homelessness, and that going on about like 3 years now. I have 3 kids, and I'm on the waiting list for like a lot of housing. I'm on the waiting list for the San Diego Housing Commission, and then also some shelter programs. And they told me that I have to have a referral in order to get in there. And so I'm just like asking for help, resources, or anything. I was working previously. I was a preschool teacher, but I had to leave because of my situation, and I just had a newborn baby. So, yeah, my kids are back there, and we've been living like in hotels, like when we can afford it, and with family members, and like those situations aren't really safe. So, yeah, I'm just here asking for help.
Okay. Lisa, we'll have somebody, Ms. Alexander, we'll have somebody talk to you,
Okay.
get a better idea of your situation, and hang in there.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. All right, next speaker slip is Joseph Whitfield.
That's me, but I actually didn't want to speak.
Okay, all right, thank you, Joseph. All right, Scott, any more slips? Okay. That is all of the non-agenda public comment consent item agendas, or non-agenda public comments. Next, I'll ask commissioners if anyone would like to make any comments. Commissioner Vasquez.
I was going to just start by welcoming our newest commissioner, Commissioner Cushman. Good to have you with us, and that you've been jumping in feet first even before your first meeting. And then my usual commissioner question.
Casey's actually outside with the young lady right now.
That is
So
very important. We can
if
come
we
back
can
to that.
Come back to that?
Yeah, I would rather her
Yeah,
handle
okay.
somebody trying to get into shelter than tell us about what's happening with the shelter.
Sounds good. Oh,
Commissioner Vasquez.
You take whichever of these you need to do first. Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a quick update. Last month, I reported that we only completed 11% of referrals. That was an error. The staff identified an issue, and we actually had completed 17% of referrals to shelter last month. So I just wanted to make that note. For the month of February, we received 1,626 requests for shelter, and we're able to process 276, so that's 17%. So over the last 3 months, we're kind of hanging out at 17%. Year to date, our average, starting from July 1, is 20%, and 87% continue to be because we don't have an available bed.
Thank you for that, and the speaker that you were talking to outside, I think, is a good example of how important this is. Thank you.
Commissioner Esther.
I think it's important that we say that in one full sentence, because you asked a question, she gave data, but I want. But I think it's really important to understand, like 17% only are being served. Did I hear that right? Of all the cases that
17% of the people that walked in were referred, actual completed referrals.
and these could be duplicates as well, so people could present for shelter more than one time. So, so of the times that people presented for shelter, there was a 17% placement rate. Can you share the occupancy rate as well, Casey?
So we continue to be at 98 to 99% on a daily basis. So it ranges where we'll have anywhere between 10 to 20 beds available each day. So as you can imagine, they fill up within the first hour of the day, if that.
Commissioner Esther, I think your point is that, and Casey, and before you, Lisa, Vice Chair Klumpner always does a good job of reminding us of the important and incredibly busy job that the Housing Commission staff has. The unfortunate part here in San Diego is that the crisis, the housing situation, the housing crisis, has gone on for far too long, and now we're seeing the collision of reality and live view, plus the devastation. As I mentioned last month, the flooding in January, exacerbated the problem because placements. It's hard to place someone when there is no place to place them, and so we have a situation where I think you'll hear me say this over and over again. We have to stop talking about building the infrastructure and start doing it, because this problem isn't going to go away. The needs are not going to just automatically, magically reduce. Miss Alexander's story is one that we hear often, and I think that and Lisa knows this. I received a call last night about someone who was struggling with finding shelter, and I think that what we have to remember is that it is our role to be a voice for those who don't have shelter, because they are the voiceless. It is our role to be their advocate. But more importantly, we just have to try and make sure we're always moving forward. It is not good enough to be standing still. Each year, progress will be measured by the change in the percentage, Casey. Right? That's what's really important. Is this real progress? Is the change in the percentage? And I think the occupancy rate says it all. When you're at 98, 99% every day, every week, every month. Again, I purposely don't look at Vice Chair Klumpner because, well, as everybody knows, there have been a lot of tears in these meetings because it is heartbreaking. Yeah.
I also want to just take the privilege of acknowledging our new CEO, President Lisa Jones, for the work that she's done. I commend the move that we did for downstairs to open that up and create housing and beds downstairs. So I am so happy that we are finding places, every nook and every cranny of this place, that we are housing people. But that's how much I want to commend and the commitment our staff. So you will say Lisa knows the problems. Oh, she does, but she's also first in line in doing stuff. During the devastation, she worked till midnight taking calls, finding placement. So I just want to put that out there, that we have the right leader in this place and in this time. And if everyone can support the commission in its effort, we're right behind you. I mean, the commissioners are right behind you. Lisa's right behind you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hubbard. We have the right leader. Hester, where did I go? I'm sorry. Right next to me. I'm so sorry. It's the H's.
I got it right.
We got to
I
keep
was
the
like,
H's apart. We have the right leadership team and we have the right staff too. We really do. They always rise to the occasion. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the one thing, although I'll close with this, you've all heard me say this before. It's at this moment that empathy is really important, and I see too often anger instead of empathy. Anger because someone's out on the street or on the curb and bothering them. People don't make homelessness a hobby, and that's what's so disruptive and so discouraging. But I say at every meeting to this team, the Housing Commission staff, the team, the entire team, keep your head up, keep doing what you're doing, because it is vital, it is important, and without you, there'd be a lot more pain and suffering. So, all right, any further comments? Thank you, Casey. No further comments from the commissioners? All right, we will then turn to our CEO, Lisa Jones, for her report.
All right, good morning. I'll begin this with another brief storm-related update. The emergency short-term shelter program we provided for storm-impacted families has now concluded. We're going through the process of reconciling invoices to determine our final expenditures for the assistance that we provided. Overall, 313 households accessed the short-term lodging we referred them to, either at the Housing Commission's Midway Drive property or the hotel rooms we secured to assist these families. That represents approximately 588 adults, 299 children, and 184 pets, and that the Housing Commission was able to assist with short-term lodging as they continued to recover from the floods. Of the 313 families we housed, 175 have transitioned to the assistance program the County of San Diego is providing. An additional 66 households did not need further assistance, and we're in process of following up and reconciling with the county to obtain information regarding the status of 72 additional families that we have not been able to reach but are no longer in our program. Sometimes families self-resolve, and we really don't know what happens with them after that, but we're doing our best to sort of track them and make sure that they really do have their resource needs being met, and they know the resources that are available to them through FEMA and Cal OES. On Tuesday, the County Board of Supervisors approved approximately $10 million in additional funding to continue to provide lodging and meals for storm-impacted households. Also on Tuesday, the San Diego City Council received an informational presentation from the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Governor's Office of Emergency Services regarding storm response and recovery. The representative from the Governor's Office of Emergency Services informed the Council that the county and city, including the Housing Commission, will need to submit a request together for reimbursement. In the aftermath of the storm, we've been working closely with the county and the city to understand any requirements for any future reimbursement from the California Office of Emergency Services or the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and we will continue to do so. I want to take a moment again to thank our staff for their outstanding response to this crisis. They performed with compassion, dedication, and professionalism as they put in long hours over many days and really epitomize what the Commission is here for and what we stand for in the community. Thank you again also to this board for all of your support for our efforts in this. It means a lot. Next slide. Oh, this is it. Several community-based organizations serving the affected communities were instrumental in providing assistance in the immediate aftermath of the storm. We also know that housing assistance for families struggling economically is most effective when many organizations serving the community work together in collaboration. to strengthen our partnerships with the many organizations doing impactful work throughout San Diego neighborhoods. We launched a community-based organization advisory committee on March 6th. This is part of our intentional effort to gather input from our community to be a stronger partner. The advisory committee will create an environment to share challenges, priorities, and available programs. It will help all of us to better connect with the customers we mutually serve. It will also help inform the Housing Commission's strategic planning efforts this year. The advisory committee will meet quarterly. Our first meeting was an engaging and robust conversation, which included sharing challenges and opportunities, and a general discussion of how this new committee can make meaningful progress in collectively serving our diverse communities in San Diego. 3 main priority areas for collaboration emerged through this initial conversation and will frame the focus of our next meeting. They were collaborative fund development, policy advocacy, and communication, including sharing resource information across agencies and collective outreach to better connect people to available resources. After the meeting officially ended, we had a lot of sort of one-off conversations with representatives that were so happy to be in this space and really thought of it as a pivotal moment in how CBOs work together and how we can work with them. I want to thank Chair Mitchell, especially for helping kick off that committee and sharing your vision around that. It was very impactful, and I think it's really going to be a valuable additional resource for the Commission, for the people and communities we serve, and for our community-based organizations as well. This slide shows the organizations that initially are part of this advisory committee, and we look forward to this ongoing conversation and working collectively to impact and serve households moving forward. An additional infusion of State of California Home Key funds is coming to San Diego. The state announced last month that it has awarded $35 million toward the Housing Commission's proposed purchase of an extended stay hotel property on Hotel Circle in Mission Valley. This property would provide 161 permanent affordable rental housing units with supportive services for people experiencing homelessness. This is a collaborative effort among the City of San Diego, the County of San Diego, and the Housing Commission, and we will be presenting recommended actions to the Housing Commission's board, subject to review by the Housing Authority, to request approvals to move forward with this proposed project. Including this proposed project, the state has now awarded more than $105 million to the Housing Commission since Home Key started in 2020. We have brought a lot of resources into our region and our county. Those funds support the creation of more than 600 affordable housing units with supportive services for our most vulnerable unhoused neighbors. Home Key supports the kind of permanent affordable housing needed for many people currently experiencing homelessness. But we know addressing homelessness requires a variety of housing options to best meet people's unique needs. And preventing someone from becoming homeless is the best solution. Homelessness prevention was the focus of a presentation our Homelessness Innovations team made in February to some of the brightest young minds from 19 schools in the San Diego Unified School District. These students are taking on local issues and developing proposed solutions through something called the Aspen Challenge. This is a program that provides tools and a platform for students to design solutions for some of society's most critical issues. Schools from cities across the country participate, including San Diego. Students received challenges in February and will spend 10 weeks working on proposed solutions, which will be presented to judges in the program in May. The Housing Commission's Director of Homelessness Operations, Megan Burt, and Housing Instability Prevention Program Supervisor Eileen Lozada were among the speakers who gave the students challenges. They challenged the students to lead a campaign that raises awareness about current homelessness prevention efforts in the city of San Diego and reduces the stigma that families might experience by accessing services. We look forward to hearing the insights these students will offer. And I will note that along with many other SDHC staff, Megan and Eileen played large roles in our storm response efforts in February. I want to thank both of them for managing to also keep focused on the future of our work and investing in and inspiring in our young people, while also meeting the immediate crisis of safely sheltering so many families impacted by the storm. Finally, this morning, we presented our annual Employee Awards of Excellence in March 1st at our all-employee meeting. Our Awards of Excellence are held every spring to recognize outstanding efforts in the previous calendar year. It was my privilege to recognize the outstanding employees who received these awards. 4 individuals and 1 team were selected for awards from among nominations submitted by staff throughout the agency. So these are really peers recognizing peers, which is wonderful. Our individual Award of Excellence recipients this year are Anthony Boyd from our Information Technology Department, Maria Calazo from our Rental Assistance Division, Dulce Ochoa from our Real Estate Division, and Katie Schmitter from our Strategic Initiatives and Homelessness Innovations Division. This year's Team Award of Excellence honors a small team that helps to secure millions and millions of dollars in competitive funds for the Housing Commission and our nonprofit affiliate each year, including state home key funds. We presented the Team Award of Excellence to our grants team, which include Michelle Slingerland and Polly Toledo under the leadership of Senior Vice President Deborah Fischel-Falk. Each year, the CEO also selects an individual or team to receive a CEO Award of Excellence, and this was my first year to select these award recipients. We had a particularly strong group of team award nominations from our staff this year, so I decided to present an individual CEO award and a team award. The individual CEO award was presented to Ginny Suarez, who started in our rental assistance division and now works in our customer experience unit. Ginny also is reaching a big milestone this year. In June, Ginny will have been with the commission for 30 years. A big thank you to Ginny. I know, right? A big thank you to Ginny for her passion and dedication to her customers and to her peers. And for the CEO Team Award, I selected the Housing Commission's Achievement Academy. The Achievement Academy works with other Housing Commission departments and external partners and looks for innovative programs and services to help the families we serve achieve their goals. The staff at the Achievement Academy are Jonathan Arevalo, Diana Brunson, Tanisha Conwright, Sylvia de la Mora, Monica Espinoza, Francis Flores, Ana Lopez, Del Marin, Eric Rodriguez Palacios, Anna Silsby, Esther Valdez, Juanita Vilvazo, and our Vice President, Stephanie Murphy. The Achievement Academy is part of our Rental Assistance Division, led by Executive Vice President Azucena Valladolid. Congratulations again to all our award winners. I spent some time with them at lunch yesterday. It was a wonderful experience to just spend time hearing from them, listening to them. This is a very energized group, full of ideas and passion for their work and really focused on getting out into the community. It was just really inspiring and fun to spend time with them. And also Stephanie makes soap, which is amazing and smells terrific. And I was very fortunate to receive some. Just anybody who wants to know, some of the most amazing handmade soap I've ever seen. I don't know how she does it all. Anyway, they are exceptional staff, and the culture and they really represent the culture and approach we have discussed at previous meetings. They reach out into the community to meet people, enriching quality of life and opportunities, listening to the needs and aspirations of the families we serve, and becoming part of the fabric of what makes our community thrive. It's a true pleasure to honor them with this Award of Excellence. That concludes my presentation this morning.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Great report. Any questions? All right. Next up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of February 16th, 2024. No speaker slips have been submitted with regard to that topic. So, commissioners, any changes to the minutes, or do we have a motion and a second? Motion by Commissioner Vasquez. Second by Vice Chair Klumpner. All right. No further comments or conversation. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? One abstention, probably. I know him well. One abstention. All right. Motion carries unanimously with one abstention. So we now move on to the consent agenda. And before we go on to that, I want to say, Lisa, it's great to see the culture recognize high performers. So it was nice to see the faces up there behind all the work. And I think I would also say that we shouldn't overlook the fact that in a region that when home key became a possibility from the state, I think what's really fascinating is that City of San Diego, there were very few cities, too, in the county that actually took advantage of that opportunity. But bringing in $100 million, $105 million is impressive. So kudos to that team. All right, on the consent agenda, I mentioned earlier that I wanted to add item 100, 101, 102, and 103 to the consent agenda item. No speaker slips have been submitted related to this item. So this concludes the public comment period for those items. Any commissioners have a comment or a question about the consent agenda? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion in a second. Commissioner Hester, okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Hester, second by Keeley. All right, no further conversation. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions. The consent agenda has passed. The motion carries unanimously. Item 104 is first up on the agenda for discussion. This item is related to the amendment to the agreement with the Insight Public Sector for Microsoft Learning. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. And Suket is getting settled with with Jeff Bartell, and they will be presenting this item. And I know people are wondering, why would you put an IT item on the agenda? So Suket, you better make this good. I don't want to see people leaving the room. IT is exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, that's why Jeff's in that role.
Yeah, right? If you just keep saying it, Jeff.
All right, thank you, Chair Mitchell. Pressure is on, and good morning, Commissioners. This item is to request an amendment to our current agreement with Insight's Public Sector, Inc. for the Microsoft Enterprise License Agreement, increasing the maximum allowable compensation in the amount of around $319,000 for a maximum total compensation amount of around $916,000. So we at the San Diego Housing Commission have been utilizing Microsoft operating system and their enterprise licensing as our electronic business solution for many years. I'm going to share some information on the procurement process of this contract. The County of Riverside entered into an agreement with Insight Public Sector, an authorized reseller of Microsoft, through a competitive solicitation in 2020. After conducting a due diligence review and consulting with legal counsel, we determined the County of Riverside's competitive solicitation met the requirements for cooperative purchasing as outlined in the San Diego Housing Commission's procurement policy. Some of the advantages of piggybacking off a contract include streamlined procurement processes and potential cost savings. We entered into an agreement with Insight Public Sector, Inc. on March 19th, 2023. I do want to point out that the agreement also allows Housing Commission to obtain additional licenses throughout the year to address the agency's needs. And at the conclusion of the contract year, Housing Commission reports the inventory of its ongoing licenses through what we call a true-up process. The cost to the Housing Commission is adjusted accordingly, ensuring that the payments are not made for services that are not rendered. And with that, I'm going to put the pressure on our amazing CIO, Jeffrey Bartell, to provide details on the additional enhancements that this approval will help achieve.
Awesome. Thanks, Suket. So this year, the Housing Commission upgraded Microsoft licensing to support integration for our back office public records request process and to utilize Microsoft Teams phone functionality. These new licenses support a more hybrid work environment by fully integrating with Microsoft Teams. Staff has a seamless and standardized experience regardless of their work location, with a single pane of glass for chat and internal and external communication that supports audio and video. With the launch of our new cloud phone system and Teams integration, we removed the need to have desk phones in the office, removing more than 300 physical phones, which run upwards of $200 each. In addition, the new licenses also allow for a much stronger and more efficient integration with multiple Microsoft systems. This can benefit many departments in the agency as we search for, identify, and compile records across Microsoft platforms that may be responsive to public records requests that we receive. We anticipate this will greatly reduce staff hours needed for this process. Finally, an added benefit to these new licenses is the inclusion of Power BI Pro. We plan on migrating all of our visual analytic dashboards from Tableau to Power BI before the end of the calendar year. The positive impact of this migration, in addition to saving more than $100,000 a year in Tableau licensing, is a direct integration with one of our heavily used new platforms called QuickBase. My team has been building applications in QuickBase that run program, contract, and shelter management for the Strategic Initiatives and Homeless Innovations Division. We've also built an affordable housing database application for real estate department. This QuickBase application, in addition to storing data regarding all the known affordable properties in the city of San Diego, serves as a parent to several other modules. These include multifamily pipeline and multifamily management, which at a very high level tracks, manages, and monitors SDHC loans and bonds, among other things. We are developing We are developing an application for the rental assistance compliance monitoring team, expected to go live in June. This QuickBase system will track all SDHC monitored restrictions that need to be enforced. Once live, restriction data from the compliance monitoring application will feed back into the Affordable Housing Database application, closing the loop. Dashboarding and visual analytics for these applications and any others in the Microsoft Dataverse will be simplified by having native integration with Power BI. It's for these reasons that I'm requesting that we have approval to amend our current Microsoft licensing contract for the remainder of the contract term. This will increase our current year by almost $89,000 and $115,000 in years 2 and 3, for a total increase of $319,000 rounded up. These figures will not change either the fiscal year 24 or fiscal year 25 budget. Next slide, thanks. I recommend that the board make authorization shown on this screen, and I'm open for questions.
Congrats, nobody left.
Or cried.
Or cried.
Nice, Brian. Nice.
All right. Thank you very much for that presentation. We are now no speaker slips have been submitted for this item. So commissioners, we now move to you. Commissioner Vasquez.
I just had a quick question. I apologize if is explained earlier, but was there any, or what was the cost of the renewal with Microsoft Enterprise licensing to stay with instead of moving to Insight Public Sector?
So Microsoft doesn't sell direct. Microsoft only sells through partners. And so because the city of Riverside had already negotiated the best terms available, that's why we piggybacked on that.
Sorry, I guess what I'm asking is, what was the cost of the renewal for the existing, just to see a price difference between the existing?
$597,000 approximately. And so
Okay.
with a difference of $318,000, bringing it up to $915,000 for 3 years.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further comments?
And this was, we also achieved cost savings in some other areas that offset some of these costs, plus some significant efficiencies.
Sure.
I mean, to some of the sort of conversation that Jeff talked about in regards to QuickBase and online dashboards, really prior to the work that the IT team has been doing on this were multiple Excel spreadsheets, which made it very cumbersome and also occasionally caused errors when calculations broke down. So the efficiencies that he so quietly talked about really have been phenomenal for staff. So I just wanted to kind of highlight the work that that team has done to really not only bring us forward into having analytics dashboards, but also making it a much simpler process with a lot of back-end APIs that auto-populate a lot of this too. So it's exceptional work. Thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, despite how quiet and soft-spoken that was, it was not lost on me or I think the rest of us how important these
No desk phones? Are you sure?
We've been watching the reconfiguration of how the work gets done here and the hybrid model and all that. And so, when you're talking about moving away from desk phones and some of these, technologies that have been longstanding but are becoming outdated, it just makes a lot of sense. And the dashboards, I don't know exactly how many people are using every function on all those dashboards, but they are incredibly useful. I've used them. I think that, and it shouldn't go unsaid how important those are from a transparency standpoint for understanding what is happening with these programs, how much they're costing, who's being served, how they're being served. So those dashboards that you all use on the back end and the public-facing front are incredibly important to the mission of the agency, and so happy to support this, and thank you for the continued focus on finding efficiencies and making staff's job easier and making it easier for the public to understand what it is that we do here. So, thanks, Ryan.
I'll just close with this. Even though I was cracking jokes about you guys running everybody out of the room, I do think that the dashboards and the you used the phrase the management of the system. I think as the job becomes tougher and bigger, as you heard from Commissioner Hester, technology has to help us be as efficient and effective as possible. What people want now is we need to know what's available, what's open, so that we can place people faster. So I think all the things that you're doing to enhance our technological capabilities, go hand in hand with our ability to be a truly top-notch, housing authority and helping people. So thank you very much for the work you're doing, for looking forward and to what our needs would be. All right?
Thanks, Mitch.
Any further questions, comments? All right, I will entertain a motion. There aren't any speaker slips. I'll entertain a motion in a second on item 104. Commissioner Hester?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Klumner. I can't believe there's no desk phones. Right. All right.
Takes a little getting used to, I gotta say.
Right. Although Mercy probably doesn't like it because all she hears is, Mercy!
That's what these
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah. All right, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, no abstentions, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, next up is item 105. This is the procurement of property insurance coverage. We'll take public comments after the staff presentation. Suket is still sitting there, and I think Manager of Finance Tracy Bryson is going to join. Yep, Tracy's joined. And we will begin the presentation when you are ready, and I know this is a really important discussion because it really gives us an overview of what's happening in the California market related to insurance.
Yes, thank you, Chair Mitchell, and good morning again, Commissioners. This morning, we're here to request approval to procure and bind San Diego Housing Commission's property insurance coverage from the Public Risk Innovation Solutions and Management. That's short form for PRISM. We're going to use PRISM throughout the conversation. In an amount not to exceed around $1.69 million plus 5% as a contingency reserve. This will represent coverage for the period of March 31st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025. So I'm going to share some details on the process of us securing our coverage. Alliant is our insurance broker that provides supports to all facets of brokerage services for the Housing Commission. This includes marketing of all of our lines of insurance coverage, as well as the administrative support, loss control, and claims management handling. Given our portfolio and needs, PRISM was determined to be the most comprehensive and best value coverage available. PRISM is a member-directed risk-sharing pool that includes 55 counties in California and 300 other public entities. The PRISM property program size creates stability and allows for economies of scale. Total insured value for PRISM property is $100 billion. The Commission's covered insured value is around $543 million, and that accounts for 160 locations with 2,400 units. PRISM also has the benefit of their long-standing career relationships, which results in better renewal offerings. Tracy is not going to provide details on factors for the increase, but a quick comment to what you said, Chair Mitchell. In 2023, just a stat, there were 28 weather and climate disasters across the United States with losses that exceeded $1 billion each. That's the highest it's been in recent years, and of course that trickle effect results in higher insurance rates, which unfortunately, Tracy will present.
Thank you, Suket, and good morning. The proposed premium represents an increase of $664,000 or 65% from the prior policy year. This increase is primarily a result of the continuing challenging insurance market. A major factor has been, as Suket mentioned, the severity and frequency of weather and climate events. The most recent, the severe winter storms, have also impacted San Diego. In addition, a portion of this increase is due to increased values of insured properties. The 12.2% increase shown on this slide includes trending for inflation, as well as new coverage related to the addition of the 64-unit property on Midway Drive that the Housing Commission acquired in January 2024. The loss ratio is another important consideration in premium renewals. The loss ratio is calculated based on the premiums paid as compared to the claims submitted. In general, a loss ratio below 55% is an indicator of low future risks. The Housing Commission's current plus 5-year loss ratio is at 113%. This makes us a high-risk entity and increases our future premiums. This high loss ratio is attributed to fires as well as water damage incidents at the Housing Commission-owned properties. We are requesting that the board take the action shown on the slide in front of us. This concludes our presentation, and we are available for any questions.
Thank you very much. We do not have any speaker slips on this item, so that concludes the public comment period for this item. Commissioners, the floor is yours. Commissioner Vasquez.
Just a simple question. The executive summary states that what makes this policy worthwhile or a good purchase is the fact that it's more comprehensive than the alternatives that you looked into. And so I think it's important that the public know that you guys did look at pricing other insurance companies as well as determining that this is basically the biggest bang for your buck as far as being more comprehensive. My question for you is, what makes this policy more comprehensive than the competitors?
So unfortunately, our loss ratio puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage when we're trying to compete for pricing. This one being the largest has one of the advantages that they're able to offer us a lot more for what we're getting. So one of the key factors is the deduction amount that we have with this carrier is $25,000. A lot of the other carriers wanted to raise it to $100,000.
Okay.
And if we do a cost-benefit analysis of how much that would cost, it's not, for us, it's not going to be financially feasible. What we're going to look for in the future also is something called self-insuring the portfolio. And so we can take an amount and say we're going to self-insure up to X dollars and then see what the premium would be. But for this round, Prism was the one that was the most competitive.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I think the difficulty with this conversation is that it's not going to get better anytime soon. That's the unfortunate part. I think the work that we do is vital and essential. And again, thanks to the entire team. The burden of this is that as we expand the portfolio of properties, there's a cost element. And I remember when Moody's made the decision that they were going to start assessing states based on their climate change responses, right? And so when you see severe weather like the floods in January, you see severe storms. I think when I told friends back on the East that we were preparing for hurricane weather last year, they're like, "Okay, Mitch, now you're just making stuff up," right? But I do think this is something we have to take into consideration, Suket, is the risk that we have. I understand. I think some of the things that probably we're going to be expected to start to consider are there physical things that we can do to improve as it relates to, no one ever expected the flooding that we saw in January, but when you have a sustained band of rain for an hour over one area, that's what's going to happen. And there are some other factors, but it is what it is. The market is a problem. The insurance market's a problem, and unfortunately, I'm in Sacramento a lot. I just do not see anything happening that's going to make this better. And I think the thing that concerns me most about this is the pool that is, the risk-sharing pool, 55 of the 58 counties in California. This is the same problem we had in California with workers' comp in the early years, in 2000, 2001, 2002. Is California is carrying the burden of this pool, and while it's there, it's something that I think we have to think about. And again, as we expand the portfolio, as we expand properties, I know we have a focus on expanding the number of units on properties for the right reason, so we can provide support to more people. But as we do all of these things that are positives for the mission, there's the cost element for the insurance. So, all right. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, no speaker slips have been submitted for this item. I will entertain a motion in a second. So moved. Motion by Commissioner Hubbard.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vasquez. All right. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you very much. Next up is item 106. This is a loan recommendation for the Kindred Apartments. We will take public comments after the staff presentation. I know that I heard a rumor that that Vice President of Multifamily Housing, Jennifer Coiter, was going to have a 50-page of PowerPoint for this with an intermission. So let's just dive into it. 30-point font, good, good. All right, the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, Chair Mitchell and Commissioners. The item before you today is a request to approve a residual receipt loan of up to, not to exceed $7,955,600 for the construction of Kindred Apartments. Kindred Apartments is a proposed construction of a 126-unit development, which is made up of 125 affordable units and 1 unrestricted manager unit. The project will be located at 1501 6th Avenue in downtown San Diego, Council District 3. The proposed project's 125 affordable units will consist of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, split between permanent supportive housing for seniors and traditional affordable housing for families. All units will be for households with income levels ranging from 30 to 60% of area median income for 55 years. This equates to $33,100 a year to $82,680 a year. The developer of the project is Bridge Housing Corporation. They are an award-winning nonprofit developer and have successfully worked on previous developments with the Housing Commission. With respect to the proposed development, the Housing Commission awarded a preliminary loan of up to $7,955,600 in 84 federal project-based vouchers, 59 of which will be for seniors experiencing homelessness. Services for the tenants will be provided by St. Paul's PACE for seniors experiencing homelessness, with St. Paul's Senior Services as secondary provider. Services will cover medical, dental, and mental health needs. Project Access will provide resident services for the family units, focusing on nutrition, social connection, exercise, and financial literacy. This slide shows a site map of the development and the proximity of transit, schools, and grocery stores. The closest bus stop is less than 500 feet from the site, while the closest school is 0.3 miles away and the closest grocery store is 0.8 miles away. The total development cost of the project will be $90.1 million, which equates to a per unit cost of approximately $715,000. Notable sources of funding include a bond finance loan, proposed loan from the Housing Commission, and a loan from the County of San Diego, a deferred developer fee, and tax credits. The bonds for this project will be issued through CalHFA as a result of our bond recycling MOU that was approved by the Housing Authority of City of San Diego in 2021. After reviewing the cost per unit, the reasons for the cost primarily stem from the rising construction costs as well as higher insurance and interest rates. The developer is currently anticipating an interest rate of over 7%. Additionally, the project will be required to pay federal prevailing wage rates, and finally, the site will include over 4,500 square feet of commercial office space. The developer is still negotiating the potential uses of the commercial space. However, the Housing Commission's loan funds nor the tax-exempt bonds will be used to fund this space. With the costs associated with the commercial space removed, the cost per unit decreases just over $700,000 a unit. Units will be restricted at 30 to 60% of area median income for 55 years. Rent will range from $775 to $2,150 per month. Should this be approved today, the developer will apply for bonds and tax credits on April 23rd with an allocation date in early August. If the project is allocated bonds, the developer would then close construction financing and begin construction in February 2025 with an anticipated completion date in November 2026. Here's the architect's rendering of the site. Staff recommends that the board take the actions in the detail in the staff report and shown on the following slides. Please note that the staff report references authorizing the interim president and CEO, however, it should state the president and CEO. This concludes the presentation. Representatives from the developer and I are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, we have one speaker slip on this item. Mr. Jeff Williams.
Okay. Hopefully I won't need all that. Good morning, this is Jeff Williams with Bridge Housing. We're the developer of the Kindred project. Bridge and the county and the Housing Commission have been working on the Kindred project for over 4 years, so we're very pleased to have reached this milestone. We're also very excited to the opportunity to serve 2 populations in need with this project: low-income family households as well as formerly homeless seniors that will be supported by the PACE program with comprehensive services. We're very thankful for the Housing Commission's support to date of this project. We've leveraged the preliminary loan commitment and the voucher award to secure an additional $4 million in funding from the County of San Diego through their IHTF program. And as Jennifer noted, we plan on submitting for tax credits and bonds next month with the goal of starting construction early next year. We think this project will fit in well in the Cortez Hill neighborhood and will energize this currently vacant site. Regarding costs, the project costs are approximately $653,000 per unit if you remove the recontributed developer fee, which is a little bit of financial engineering that I'm sure you may be familiar with, but in terms of deferred fee and a GP equity contribution that offset a significant part of the developer fee, the net cost really is more like $653,000 a unit. This site, like many urban sites, has factors that increase the construction costs. As Jennifer indicated, we are paying prevailing wages. This site has demolition of both the existing slab after the county demolished their building, as well as integration with and demolition of the existing raker braces that are there so that we can install our own shoring system to support the east, north, and south sides of the site and prepare for construction. We also have ground floor commercial space and significantly increased construction interest. We're carrying, I think, almost $6 million in interest for this project, which is probably 2 to 3 times what we would have carried 2 or 3 years ago for a project like this. We have worked very hard to make the building and site as efficient as possible given these various constraints, and we look forward to our continued partnership with the Housing Commission. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Appreciate your comments. First up, out of the chute, Mr. C.
Thank you, sir. If you'd come back to the microphone, please. So you confused me. You deducted the deferred development fee to get down to $600,000. Are you saying you're not going to take the fee?
No, because that fee is, I guess when we talk about costs of a project, we're usually talking about the capital cost. That cost is paid through operations over 15 years. So
yeah,
the
I understand that. Okay.
Yeah.
So as the new commissioner, I don't know Bridge. Can you give us a brief? Who is Bridge? And you said in the application, financial statements were attached, but they weren't attached. So give me a high-level brief, if you would, on the financial health of your company, if you would, please.
Okay. Yeah, Bridge just celebrated our 40th anniversary based in San Francisco. We built many projects in downtown San Diego, as well as throughout San Diego County and throughout the country. Throughout the state. We're really throughout the entire West Coast. We have over 100 properties, several billion in total value. We are S&P rated, I think, AA-. I'd have to double check that. So Bridge has been around, financially sound, has never failed to complete a project. So I can give you more details. We could send financials, but I've been with Bridge 14 years, and like I said, Bridge has been in operation for 40 years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any further questions? Commissioner Vasquez.
Sorry, just a couple comments. First, I wanted to commend staff for including in the executive summary the percentage of affordable units that are in D3. According to the paperwork, it's 33% of the total number of affordable units, I believe, in the city. So thank you for that. It's helpful information to know how much each individual community is accepting or taking for affordable housing. My question, though, is, and it's just a point of clarification, I apologize, but I noticed that it's 84 PBV units, but only 80 or 59 are permanent, and it appears from the executive summary that those are permanent because of the federal funding. I don't know what the difference between the two of the 84 and the 59 are for.
There's still federal funding from both sides, so it's still project-based vouchers. It's just the 59 will be for permanent supportive housing for the seniors, and then those remaining 25 will be for the family, and then that's traditional affordable housing as opposed to the permanent supportive size.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Any further comments, questions from the commissioners? All right, seeing none, we will move to entertain a motion in a second on item 106. Motion by Vice Chair Klempner, Second by Commissioner Vasquez. No further comments. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Ms. Croder, you are free to go. Yeah, again. All right. We have now moved through to item 107 on the agenda, and this is an informational workshop about the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Rental Assistance Program. Before we get to that, we do have one speaker slip that did come in, non-agenda public comment. We're going to go ahead and take that before we get started, Ashley Swain, if that's okay. Is Grace Guadalupe here? Yes. How are you? Grace, please come to the mic.
Hello, Board and Chambers. I wanted to thank you, first of all, for giving me this time to speak to you guys. I am new to San Diego. I've only been here about 4 years. Tarquin Parra is my legal name. Grace is a name that I go by because my name's a little complicated. I am here to give you guys a little bit of insight on my experience. We came to San Diego in regards to a domestic violence issue, and I've gone through your guys' process twice now. We were housed back in 2020. However, we had to walk away from our housing due to a leasing manager error on COVID funds. We were denied assistance in that area. Mitch, in the beginning of the year, I watched the board meeting and you had stated that homelessness is not a person issue. It is an economic issue, and that is true to my story. I align with that very, very much. I am not a substance user. I am just a person that moved to San Diego due to circumstances, and I've had a hard time due to the economics on getting any kind of part-time hourly or consistent full-time hourly positions. I also am a caretaker for my daughter. She is here with me. She is disabled. All that being said, I'm trying to wrap this up, so please bear with me. All that being said, through your guys' shelter programs, I have encountered severe and circumstantials where unsanitary conditions put my daughter into crucial health. It deteriorated her health. Not only that, but due to the lack of knowledge of food safety and hypoallergenic needs, it almost put a life-threatening situation in her. With all that being said, having worked with several case managers throughout these shelters, I have also noticed that the biggest thing that this system is lacking is cohesiveness with continuity of care. And I know that from my experience. I am a medical assistant. I have experience in integrated care. There is, once when these case managers help us to get us housed and we obtain this temporary assistance and we gradually step off of it and have to start paying for ourselves, there is no follow-through with the Housing Commission to get us to be sustained, if that makes sense. There's no sustainable assistance there at that point. It is legitimately, okay, you're housed, good luck. And due to those economic circumstances, I've had to go through it twice. First time around, I am credentialed in insurance. I'm a mobile notary public. I'm a medical assistant. There is no way on earth that a eviction is something I'm willing to take for my personal professional reasons, and that is the requirement that I have been told throughout all of this in order for me to get any kind of rental assistance to sustain housing once when we are housed. So then after us being housed, we then had to walk away from our apartment and end up on the streets for another 16 months. Intermittently, I paid for hotels because I'm not going to have my kid just sleeping on the street. But the second time around, due to the experiences the first time around, we chose to literally sleep out on the streets. We were out at Seaport Village, out on the bench, because of COVID, unsanitary conditions, roaches, bed bugs, just all the factors in place. All those put a detrimental factor on her health that will deteriorate rapidly. And so we are now once again housed, but we are coming back up on that point where we are facing, because I still have not been able to lock down any kind of hourly pay, all of the work that I have right now and that I'm credentialed for is commission. Economics are what they are, and commission just isn't coming in. So I wanted to bring this to your attention, and I'm trying to get heard. I've been trying to ask for the entire time, who do I speak to? Because this bottleneck system that lies solely in your guys' hands, the community has this impression you guys don't care. And after reviewing your guys' board meetings and attending virtually, I see that that's not the case, which is why I'm here today to bring this to your attention. I can pinpoint exactly where this is falling through so you guys can make those steps to improve the situation without having to hear the anger and the exhaustion of the community. I'm a part of it, unfortunately, due to those circumstances, but I'm looking to be that beacon of connectivity and a voice that's heard.
Listen, I appreciate that. I think that one of the things that's really important for us as an organization is always learning from lived experience. I think we would all agree, every commissioner would agree, that when you hear from someone who's going through a struggle with homelessness, there's little things to pick up. So obviously, I think Lisa will make a connection and figure out how best to listen to what you have to say and offer.
Okay.
And then there may be some other things that come along with it that can help.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next up is item 107. I just want to see you're there, and I know you've been busy, and you're smiling. So that's good. So we will this is item 107, Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Rental Assistance Program. We'll take public comments after the staff presentation. Ashwena is joined by the Vice President of Special Programs, Maria Christopher, and they will be presenting this item. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Over the course of our multi-part informational workshops, we have provided an in-depth look at the program's intricacies, specifically from a client's viewpoint. This included an overview of the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program waiting list, initial eligibility, move-in processes, and ongoing participant and Housing Commission responsibilities for ongoing assistance. Today's workshop is the final segment of a three-part overview. I know you're all sad. We will provide an overview today of our special purpose, moving to work, and permanent supportive housing rental assistance programs that are administered through the Rental Assistance Division. Federal resources allocated to us for our Section 8 Housing Choice Vouchers also funds our special programs. These programs provide rental assistance for specific vulnerable populations such as veterans, families unifying with their children, and people experiencing homelessness. Most include collaboration with full service providers, property managers, developers, the Regional Task Force on Homelessness, and others to provide rental assistance resources and permanent supportive housing to vulnerable populations. This chart highlights our special voucher programs. More than 7,400, or approximately 44% of the Housing Commission's rental assistance vouchers are considered part of a special voucher program dedicated for special needs or unhoused households with low income. We have been able to contribute to community-wide efforts to address or prevent homelessness by using our special rental assistance programs. Approximately 35% of the Housing Commission's total voucher baseline is committed to individuals or households experiencing homelessness at the admission to the program. The Housing Commission is one of 39 original moving to work agencies out of approximately 3,200 public housing agencies nationwide. The Moving to Work, or MTW, designation provides the Housing Commission the ability to design and implement a variety of innovative new approaches to provide housing assistance and other services to low-income families in the city of San Diego. MTW initiatives are subject to approval from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The Housing Commission has developed several innovative rental assistance initiatives to provide housing resources for individuals and families with special needs, experiencing homelessness, or at risk of experiencing homelessness. This slide shows 5 initiatives the Housing Commission has implemented using its MTW designation. Maria will now share more details about each of these programs and other special rental assistance programs.
Thank you, Susanna. Good morning.
The San Diego Housing Commission's local non-traditional programs made possible by our Move to Work designation include the sponsor-based housing voucher program. Under this program, the Housing Commission provides a housing subsidy for people experiencing homelessness, while a partnering agency provides case management and supportive services to stabilize the household. Our Moving On program provides rental assistance to individuals who previously experienced homelessness and who have successfully stabilized in permanent supportive housing. They no longer need intensive supportive services, but they still need ongoing rental assistance. Providing ongoing rental assistance helps to maintain housing stability for the individual while freeing up supportive services and case management resources for people experiencing homelessness who have a greater need. The short-term transitional housing program is for adults experiencing unsheltered homelessness. This program moves the individual from the street and into transitional housing to stabilize them before moving into permanent supportive housing. Local agencies provide supportive services. The Monarch School Project offers rental assistance and supportive services to families experiencing homelessness with children attending the Monarch School, one of the few schools in the nation serving unhoused children. A full-service provider offers case management and supportive services for Monarch School Project participants. The Housing Commission's Achievement Academy provides work readiness and self-sufficiency services for these families. The Monarch School provides the family with services to support the family and children's academic success. The Guardian Scholars Program is a partnership with San Diego State University to provide rental assistance to students exiting the foster care system and who have experienced homelessness to ensure housing is retained during and between semesters. San Diego State provides an array of resources to support the students' academic success. A special purpose voucher is another type of housing choice voucher that public housing agencies like the Housing Commission administer. The Department of Housing and Urban Development issues these special purpose vouchers to public housing agencies for specific populations. These include, but are not limited to, veterans, families unifying with their children, people with disabilities, and people experiencing homelessness. Special purpose vouchers focus rental assistance resources to specific populations to advance a community's plan to end homelessness, support a community's equity outcomes, and engage with people with lived experience of homelessness and involvement with various systems. The Department of Housing and Urban Development does not provide funding for supportive services for special purpose vouchers. However, these vouchers require the Housing Commission to collaborate and engage with partners and providers to offer supportive services or other resources to enable the assisted households to stabilize in housing. Our special purpose vouchers include Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing, otherwise known as VASH, Family Unification Program, or FUP, Mainstream Voucher and Non-Elderly Disabled Program, and the Emergency Housing Voucher, known as EHV. The Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program provides rental assistance for veterans experiencing chronic or literal homelessness. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs provides case management and clinical services to participants. The Family Unification Program is designed to reunite families whose children are at risk of out-of-home placement due to inadequate housing. Family Unification Program vouchers serve to assist families involved with the child welfare system and who lack adequate housing. The vouchers help to prevent the out-of-home placement of their child or children or to facilitate family reunification. The Family Unification Program is also available to assist youth between the ages of 18 and 24 who have exited or will exit foster care and are experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness. Mainstream and non-elderly vouchers are housing choice vouchers with special eligibility criteria to serve non-elderly persons with disabilities or households with a member with disabilities. There are small differences between the mainstream and non-elderly disabled programs. The mainstream voucher is open to non-elderly households with at least one family member with a disability. However, the non-elderly disabled program requires non-elderly persons with a disability to be the head of household, spouse, or co-head of the household. Also, 83 of our mainstream vouchers are specifically for households experiencing homelessness. The American Rescue Plan Act funds the Emergency Housing Voucher Program.
This program provides housing choice vouchers to public housing agencies to assist individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness, at risk of homelessness, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking, or are recently homeless or have a high risk of housing instability. HUD allocated these vouchers to communities with the greatest need for emergency housing vouchers and where local public housing agencies demonstrated the capacity to administer the vouchers. Collaboration, referrals, and supportive services from the continuum of care and victim service providers are key elements of the emergency housing voucher program implementation. Unlike most special purpose vouchers, emergency housing vouchers cannot be reissued to new applicants as participants transition out of the program. Due to HUD regulations, turnover vouchers reduce the number of available EHVs we have to issue to new households. The Housing Commission successfully utilized our allocation of emergency house vouchers more quickly than many jurisdictions across the country, and we received approximately 20 additional vouchers, which also have been fully utilized. Permanent supportive housing is an intervention that combines rental assistance with access to supportive services to address the needs of people experiencing homelessness. The services are designed to build independent living and tenancy skills and connect people with community-based health care, treatment, case management, and employment services. Most permanent supportive housing programs identify households through the Continuum of Care's Coordinated Entry System, or CES. A partner agency offers supportive services with a Housing First model to help stabilize the household in their housing. Approximately 5,800 of the Housing Commission's vouchers utilize a permanent supportive housing model. These include programs such as sponsor-based housing vouchers, Veterans Affairs supportive housing vouchers, and project-based housing vouchers. All Housing Commission permanent supportive housing programs apply Housing First principles. Housing First focuses on providing appropriate housing options as quickly as possible with as few requirements or conditions as possible and access to supportive services as needed. All of us are able to deal with daily issues more effectively when we don't have to worry about where we're going to sleep at night. That's what Housing First is about. In San Diego, the focus is on getting people into the most appropriate housing option for their circumstances at a point in time. Then they are more likely to be able to focus on their mental health, behavioral health, and other issues and to connect with many services available to them. Housing First is a best practice for populations experiencing homelessness and is supported by HUD, the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, and the State of California. The key components of Housing First approach are highlighted on this slide. It is housing focused. Providers using the Housing First approach focus on quickly connecting households to safe, clean, appropriate housing. Services are intended to support housing stabilization, which includes helping tenants understand and meet the requirements of their lease. Housing is not dependent on participating in services. Housing First is also person-centered. Individuals are treated with dignity and respect with the right to make decisions about their lives, including their housing and service plan goals. Case management focuses on helping residents understand and follow tenancy rules to increase housing stability and minimize any impact on the other residents and the building. Service providers are best practices such as motivational interviewing and trauma-informed care. Housing First is also low barrier. Program participation is not contingent upon minimum income, sobriety, or participation in services. While participation in services is regularly offered, it's not a condition of tenancy. And Housing First focuses on harm reduction. Service providers recognize that substance use and addiction are part of some people's lives and use a non-judgmental approach to meet people where they are and educate individuals about how to engage in safer practices if individuals are not willing to be abstinent. In the fall of 2020, the Community Preventive Service Task Force, an independent panel of public health and prevention experts in the areas of preventative services, public health, health promotion, and disease prevention, published a systematic review of 26 studies related to Housing First. They concluded that Housing First programs are more effective in reducing homelessness and improving housing stability than Treatment First programs or treatment as usual programs. Supportive services are offered under a permanent supportive housing model to maximize housing stability and prevent returns to homelessness. Partner agencies offer supportive services and assist households with paperwork, housing navigation, leasing, and ongoing case management. They also provide case management and supportive services to promote ongoing housing stability. Some of the services include mental health services, substance use services, resume and employment search, childcare, food distribution, and healthcare services. Our largest homeless dedicated permanent supportive housing program is the project-based housing voucher program. Unlike Section 8 housing choice vouchers and some of the other programs discussed today, the rental assistance is tied to a specific unit and not the tenant. If the tenant leaves the unit, the rental assistance stays with the unit to assist another eligible participant who moves in. Project-based housing voucher permanent supportive housing properties may have more specific criteria, such as specifying serving seniors experiencing homelessness or unhoused veterans. Our project-based house or voucher program also includes vouchers that assist households with low income who are not experiencing homelessness. These are non-permanent supportive housing vouchers. Participants for these vouchers are selected from the Housing Commission's project-based housing voucher waiting list. Rental housing units in the marketplace are a crucial housing resource for participants in our special programs. The Housing Commission Special Program staff partner with our Strategic Initiatives and Homeless Innovations Division to provide landlords with rental housing in the city of San Diego who rent to San Diegans experiencing homelessness. The Landlord Engagement and Assistance Program, often referred to as LEAP, is designed to attract and retain landlord participation in renting units to households experiencing homelessness. Incentives include a $500 leasing incentive for the first unit rented and $250 for each unit thereafter. Security deposit grants of up to 2 times the rent. LEAP also offers landlords a vacancy loss incentive to reserve a vacancy, while LEAP housing specialists identify applicants and facilitate rental application submissions, process voucher documents, and execute the move-in process. Dedicated Housing Commission staff provide housing location support and assist with questions. LEAP and many other programs discussed today are part of Housing First San Diego, the Housing Commission's homelessness initiative that launched in November 2014. Since then, the programs of Housing First San Diego have created more than 11,400 housing solutions for people experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness in the city of San Diego.
So we have a short video. We're almost there. We have a short video to share with you this morning to share comments from one of the people our special programs have assisted. Terry obtained a VASH voucher and found an apartment with help from our LEAP program. Play the video.
Hospital for treatment for alcohol and drugs, and my life was basically pretty detonated, which is where that travel usually takes us. And they had offered me a VASH housing contract, which surprised me. And I'll tell you one of the beautiful things about living here and the beautiful things about HUD is I came in and checked probably almost every wrong box a person could to normally rent an apartment. And they still gave me an apartment. And I share that story today. I was so blessed, it's unbelievable. You know, I never looked back. I've stayed sober ever since. It's a good feeling to have a place to live when it seems impossible. And I think for a lot of people starting off, it's overwhelming. That's another one of the big gifts here is that stability, that feeling of self-worth, you know, that feeling of encouragement. And it's all the little goals, you know. When I bought my first dishes, when I bought my first comforter, you know, just little things. My first groceries, you know, I mean, wow, it was awesome.
We also have a longer video of Terry and his landlord who participates in LEAP available online on our website under the 2023 annual report.
I had gone into the VA hospital for treatment for
I'd just like to conclude by saying that the Housing Commission administers a multitude of rental assistance programs to assist populations with low income, special needs, or who are experiencing homelessness. We strive to provide exceptional customer service and meet families where they're at, to provide empathetic and, you know, meet them where they need to provide not only the housing, the supportive services, and any additional services that they need to remain stable under the rental assistance programs. I also want to just conclude by saying the accomplishments in the rental assistance division are attributed to the hard work, the dedication, and the commitment by our staff across the board. So I just want to give them a shout out to the phenomenal work that they continue to do day in and day out for the families that we serve. And with that, we conclude our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Well, Susanna, thank you very much. Questions, comments? As everybody's preparing, I would say there was an announcement about from the VA that they're going to try and house 900 veterans in San Diego.
So there's currently a county-wide initiative called Functional Zero to end homelessness among veterans throughout the county of San Diego. So it's a collaboration of service providers, the housing authorities that have VASH vouchers across the county, and we are all working to coordinate our resources to essentially end homelessness among the veteran population.
Yeah. So the 900, that's 900 new beds, though.
It's 900 veterans that are currently experiencing homelessness throughout the county of San Diego, so the goal is to give them a permanent door.
Okay. Commissioner Hester.
Hi. I wanted to understand or relate to what you oversee and the stories we heard this morning. Does that fall under your purview or another department? Because I would like to request a follow-up in terms of what is the result of that. I mean, those were pretty deplorable conditions, and I can't imagine the Housing Commission sort of being the managers of that. So if it's a contractor, then I would really like to see some reporting. Thank you.
Yes, we can certainly follow up on both the comments about the shelter and the comments about Cypress Apartments. The Housing Commission does not own or operate Cypress Apartments. We do have vouchers within that property, so we will be reaching out to the owner and the property management company to address the issues and circle back.
Yeah, I think that your comment, Commissioner Hester, is more that when we give vouchers to someone to go to a location, we do have an expectation that that location is well maintained and secure, and that there is a reporting mechanism for problems so that we can go to the owner of that location when they do arise. Is that fair?
That is correct.
Do we do an annual inspection of properties?
We do biannual inspections of the physical inspections of the properties. We also maintain really close contact with the property management company because there's also supportive services that are offered to the tenants. So we have close relationships with people operating the property.
Just following up on Commissioner Hester, is there a structure in place when tenants have a concern that do we see the problems that they're reporting to the property management company?
When we hear from the tenants, our first step is to conduct an inspection, which includes not only their particular unit that they're residing in, but also the common areas. Should there be issues within the common areas, we also cite that to the owner and do require there to be corrections to maintain compliance with health and safety standards.
Just to follow up on Chair Mitchell's comments regarding quality of housing, livability. In one of the speakers, they mentioned that they were in hotels and temporarily, and my experience, depending on the hotels, is that it's the expectation is buyer beware, right? If you go to a Motel 6, there may be bed bugs or it might not be as clean as usual. Are there any additional protections for somebody who is using one of our services in order to be placed in those hotel rooms to make sure that they are habitable?
So generally, we don't actually run a hotel program on an ongoing basis, so it's very rare that hotels would be used. We do our best to make sure that these are quality hotels, that when we do use them, people have had good experiences. There are occasions where the sort of family makeup, which usually involves pets, where the types of pets make it very difficult to place them in more traditional hotels, so we have to get a little creative with some of those mom and pop owners. That is an area where sometimes we tend to see more issues, so it's a balance of, is it safe enough, is it quality enough, and oh yes, they will accept the fish, the dog, the snake, and all those things that come along. Just being really honest, we have to get creative sometimes. But when we hear reports of a hotel that is not meeting clients' needs, then that's not a hotel that we would use again.
I guess my point is that it seems as if maybe we need to rethink buyer beware when it comes to hotel accommodations. That at minimum they shouldn't have bed bugs or have questionable conditions for people instead of just expecting them to go out of business.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. One being about the emergency housing vouchers and your comment that HUD does not allow the reuse of those vouchers when there's an early exit. And this reminds me of kind of some of the creative policy development we've done around the bond recycling. I know it's a completely different subject, but same concept here. When the money that we have committed to something is essentially paid back early or made available early, we try to reuse it as much as possible. Do we know what HUD's thinking is on having that rule?
So, unlike the traditional Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, the funding for emergency housing vouchers came from the American Rescue Plan Act, which is the temporary funding source. So part of the allocation of those vouchers came with restrictions of when we can issue vouchers for leasing. Part of the rules stated that any vouchers that were not issued or any families that exited the program after September of 2023, we were not allowed to reissue to new vouchers because the funding itself is temporary. So as people exit the program, you're going to see that program shrink.
Just going to say, staff and our policy staff have been working with our congressional representatives. It will take an act of Congress to change that, so it's not just at HUD's discretion. We've raised it with HUD, and we're raising it with our congressional representatives as well.
And if I'm understanding, so the program itself is winding down unless something is done.
New funding source.
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, and sort of related, I mean, it's wonderful that all these programs exist. And we know, oh, I'm sorry, I had one more about the family unification. And that, I think I heard you say that is fully utilized. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so that, for example, is a program that some of the cases we've heard today, without getting into specifics, that's the type of situation that program is intended for. And
correct. So the Family Unification Program serves two populations. So it's families that are under the Public Child Welfare Agency system where they need a voucher to unify together as a family through stable housing. Or it's also geared towards youth who are exiting the foster system, who are at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness, like the lady who was here earlier today. The FUP voucher program is based on a competitive process. It is also tied to federal funding, and so we have fully issued all of the vouchers, so there are no more available.
So obviously that's problem number one.
Correct.
So is the requirement that the family has to be separated in order to qualify? Because, for example, the two stories we heard today are families that are currently unified, but their ability to continue to provide adequate housing is the question, which would obviously put that in jeopardy long term. So, but this program is specifically kind of targeting the more extreme further down the line. So I want to take the opportunity to kind of point out that, you know, a lot of what we hear and deal with here is about preventing situations from becoming more severe where additional assistance is required. Obviously, it is much more challenging, requires much more staff work, deeper levels of assistance when you are reuniting a family that has been separated and using housing assistance to help accomplish that than if we prevent that separation from occurring in the first place by ensuring that they do have adequate housing. So I understand why it is targeted at who it's targeted at. I just think, given what we heard today, it's worth pointing out the shortfall and, you know, really kind of from the federal standpoint, how narrowly targeted these programs are to the end of the spectrum, where we have already missed and been under-resourced, and all of the opportunities along the way to prevent a situation from reaching that point. And we're essentially stuck dealing with an inadequate allocation of vouchers and voucher programs to deal with cases that have reached the most extreme end of the spectrum, rather than being able to intervene in lighter touch ways and shallower subsidies earlier on, because those don't really exist, or at least anywhere near the scale, and to the extent that they do exist, we are fully utilizing those and could use much, much more. So with all that said, I will just say that, the perennial, thing that's been said for probably 20 plus years, certainly longer than I've been around, we need more vouchers out of HUD, obviously. I don't think we can realistically expect that that is ever going to happen in the foreseeable future, and we just need to kind of be honest about that. And the reason I think it's important to be honest about that is that we do have opportunities to, if we are honest about that, then from a policy standpoint, we can talk about local funding streams, which is really, I think, the missing ingredient in all of this. And, the informational item today is about the voucher program. And so I'm going a bit astray here, but I think we have to acknowledge that as well as these programs work for for what they're intended to solve, they are never going to meet the need that we have in the community. And to be blunt, when people say that we need to, that is how we're going to meet it, it's just an unrealistic solution. And so I hope that we can all be honest about the fact that we need a funding stream locally that can provide more assistance for programs like this that we're not going to get.
I think you hit our core problem about there's never sufficient resources to match the need.
Well, but I think we also need to define it too, right? We've said often at this meeting that the waiting list is 12 years, right?
It's 12 to 15
12 to 15
wait
years.
time.
How many people are on the waiting list?
About 58,000 households on the Section 8
So we're
waiting
not
list.
going to get 58,000 vouchers, right? So I think that we have to be even more blunt and direct. Is there 58,000 vouchers are not coming to San Diego, and to the city of San Diego, right? But I agree. I think the struggle I have sometimes with the voucher program is, like, for example, the 47 short-term transitional vouchers. My understanding is that people that get those often are surprised when the transition period there's a period which you can use it, and then it's gone, right?
So the short-term transitional program is intended to be a bridge between literal homelessness and your pathway into receiving a permanent supportive housing voucher. So it's a very much a temporary stepping stone.
Yeah.
We don't have a term limit on how long somebody can necessarily stay there, but people who are entering the short-term transitional program are usually in the process of receiving a PSH voucher, a VASH voucher, EHV voucher, so we house them in a temporary situation while we gather paperwork, determine eligibility, and then move them on to the permanent housing.
So there's some confusion then. I would, because if you get one of those vouchers, and you need to go into the family unification voucher program, there aren't any family unification vouchers available necessarily. So you just stay in the transitional voucher until such time that one becomes available?
Usually the people who are entering the short-term transitional program have been selected for
another
voucher.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, so that's good to know.
House them temporarily because they're the most vulnerable.
Okay.
We don't want to lose contact with them because they're
Okay.
literally homeless, and then we transition them into housing.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And the reason why I asked that question, I've heard stories recently about some of the youth that might get a transitional voucher, not knowing that so maybe there's some confusion on that part. Okay, all right. You work with Monarch and Guardian. Monarch, I watch Monarch all the time in amazement. Is there a discussion about the subsidies, increasing the subsidies for youth homelessness? Because that is there's the categories: youth, veterans, adults, families. But I see that there's 25 for Monarch, and there's 100 for the Guardian Scholars, which until I read the report, I hadn't thought that there was a different name for college students. So is there a way that that we always ask for more vouchers? I guess the question is there a discussion about increasing the vouchers in those two areas?
So, going back to Chair Klumpner's comments about there never being enough resources to match the need, I think that's the same situation that we face with Monarch and the Guardian Scholars Program. The funding from Monarch and Guardian Scholars comes from the same pot of money that we receive from HUD for the Section 8 voucher. It's from our MTW cap. So I think the question has always been the struggle of balancing the needs as far as how far can we stretch our funding, and it really comes down to funding limitations as far as being able to expand those programs.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I asked that question is Congressman Levin made a comment, and I think Ms. Weber was in D.C. when he made this comment with me, and he said, we're never going to give you guys any more vouchers until the county's actually efficient with theirs. And it was kind of stinging in a way, because he said it in a room full of people. Which I know and we've made this comment at this meeting at meetings before. Is there a way we can work with the county to make sure they are actually exercising every effort and utilizing all their vouchers so that we can maybe go and ask? We're never going to get 58,000, but boy, I'd take a few thousand if we the county to do a little better. And this isn't a criticism of the county. Just what can we do so we're not having the same conversation that Congressman Levin pointed out to us?
Mitch, was that related to VASH specifically?
It was VASH, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's why the county launched this effort around VASH is to address that need. In regards to their traditional voucher program, they are using all the vouchers they have the money to use right now.
All right, so the VASH aspect, they'll be utilizing all their vouchers there.
And in regards to VASH, as I said, and team continue to bring new vouchers in every year.
I would just suggest that we also look at if I know that it's hard for the delegation to get behind a big increase in just vouchers overall for us, but I would think that everybody in the delegation would agree that if there's a way to get more vouchers for situations like Monarch and Guardian, that makes sense. So we should maybe look at that, as I know that there are a lot of needs. But if we can start to segment like we're doing with VASH, and maybe look at youth, maybe there's some opportunities.
So Molly Weber and I will be joining the chamber delegation. I think both you and Commissioner Klumpner are going to be there as
We're just
well.
there to keep an eye on you and Molly.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. You can get into trouble in D.C.
I know.
You go out, you ask people for money, they
I
get
know.
upset. What can I say? But one of the conversations that is key on our list is the FUP youth program for a variety of reasons, both extending the existing program so that it's not so term limited, and also an increase there.
I agree. And I would just say that sometimes collaboration and partnership is key. I would think that each of the universities in this region and the community colleges would all be in favor. I know that I saw Lori Gottesman the other day, and they're working with us on a safe lot. They see the need for leaning in more on homelessness amongst college students. And so I just would think that there's a way that if we have not organized a collective voice and effort on that, then we should.
Absolutely, and good news is we are collaborating with San Diego State University, where we recently had a conference where they're pulling in all different universities throughout the nation, so that we can see the model that we have, see what is needed, see where additional funding can come from. So we just recently had a conference on that where we were assisting with that, and we hope to have more collaboration with universities and be on more panel discussions and things like that to bring light to the youth and the students out there that need the assistance.
And to try and get more support. That's okay.
Absolutely.
I have a follow-up on the Guardian program. Is my understanding correct that, as a general rule, HUD does not allow vouchers to be awarded to students? Is that college students? Meaning this is a MTW program that's kind of a special carve-out.
So the Guardian Scholars and the Monarch School Project are Housing Commission local initiatives that we created. So these types of vouchers are not duplicated anywhere else. So HUD doesn't necessarily have a rule about now issuing vouchers to students. They've recently been focusing on more funding on youth, especially youth that are at risk of homelessness. But there isn't a current initiative for like college students at the moment.
Okay. And I thought that there were some regulations about students who are more than a certain number of hours are not eligible for Section 8 as a general rule. Am I mistaken?
I'm not familiar with it, but for example, Section 8 voucher program would be open to anyone who reaches the top of the waiting list, which is 12 to 15 years, as long as they meet the eligibility criteria based on income, other criteria that's set by HUD and such. So they wouldn't be excluded.
Got it.
Sorry, I'm wondering if, Commissioner Klumper, you're referring to the number of hours you have to be at school to be considered a full-time student? So there is I believe there's a regulation around full-time student status, right?
Meaning an official full-time student is not eligible for HUD housing assistance as a general rule?
No, it's just part of the calculation process, I think.
Yeah, so if a student is enrolled in school full-time and they're between 18 and 24, we don't count their income towards the family's annual resource that then is used for the family share of rent.
Okay.
So there's
interesting.
a benefit.
Okay.
There's an additional benefit.
A benefit
for
to
full-time
it.
students.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Got it. So, I mean, the real issue with students is the fact that the wait list is just wholly incompatible with, right? They're never going to get on the wait list even if they qualify, which in a normal market makes perfect sense because the idea is when they're out of school, their income goes up and matches the housing costs. And, I am really happy to see this program that is specific to, and you said it's fully enrolled, right? It's specific to former foster youth at SDSU. I just, again, want to point out this is like the most kind of dire and in need segment. And, we've seen statistic after statistic about the number of students that don't fall into that category who are unhoused in one way or another. And so and certainly, increasing student housing. But I mean, that is becoming an increasing strain on the resources as a whole, whether that be resources that we control or even just resources in the market as students are piling up into unconventional housing settings that would, 10, 15, 20 years ago were available to a different population. So I'm glad that we're thinking about that. This is an area that has a very large number of students, and it does not have the housing that is adequate for those students, and it is having all kinds of impacts, whether we see it directly or not. And so even if we're just starting with the former foster youth, which seems like a perfectly good place to start, but I'm glad that we're kind of leading that discussion, and this is another example of the value of MTW to come up with local initiatives. But also, I don't envy the task you all have in allocating these MTW resources, because every cohort that we're serving here is a terrible trade-off between how much gets allocated between them.
Yes, Commissioner Hester.
Moving away from the conversation that we're having now, so if there's any more comment on that, I don't want to interrupt.
This is an informational item. Any further comments? All right, seeing none, thank you. Commissioner Hester.
No, I meant for everybody.
Yes.
I'm not ending.
Okay.
I just wanted some clarification. I think I wasn't sure, or I caught it, on the non-elderly disability housing voucher. You said something to the effect, or you said the head of the household has to be the
holder of the voucher.
Yeah, so
has to be the
there's
disabled person, the non-elderly.
elderly disabled.
Can you just
I have a hard time getting it straight in my head.
do that again, please? Give me
Sure. So there is a specific special purpose voucher from HUD. It's called non-elderly disabled. Those vouchers are for specific populations, for households that are between the ages of 18 and 61, and where the head of household, the spouse or the co-spouse, has a disability.
Working? No.
They could be working, but the requirement is that they have a disability.
Got it. Thank you. I wanted clarification.
Okay. No further comments. Again, this is an informational item. Good job today. Thank you very much for your time. There is no motion required on this item, so we will now move to the remainder of our agenda, which is the closed session. The board will be meeting in closed session today. Mr. Christensen, will you please announce the closed session agenda for the regular and special board meetings?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chair. We do have two closed sessions, one under the regular meeting, and that is item Roman numeral 4A, which is conference with labor negotiators. And we have a second closed session under the special meeting, which is Roman numeral 4A, but conference with legal counsel concerning existing litigation. And that's the case that was just filed 3 days ago, Californians for Equal Rights Foundation versus the City of San Diego Housing Authority and the San Diego Housing Commission.
All right, we will go ahead and Mr. Davis is going to help us clear the room. Yep. All right, this is Mitch Mitchell, the Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. The board has concluded its closed session at 11:41. Housing Commission General Counsel Chuck Christensen will now announce the board actions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Housing Commission met in closed session concerning its regular meeting closed session concerning the labor negotiations. There were discussions only, no action was taken. That was all that was discussed in that closed session. With respect to the special meeting, there was also a closed session that was involving litigation against the Housing Commission, the city, and the Housing Authority. That matter was informational only. No action was taken. That concludes the matters that were discussed in closed session.
All right, thank you, Chuck. And with that, that concludes the meeting for today. We will adjourn the meeting officially at 11:41 a.m. on Friday, March 15th. Thank you very much.